It always begins the same way. She looks at you, not as you truly are, but as the person she imagines you could become. You can feel it in her eyes, can't you? That glimmer of expectation, a spark that feels like hope, but might just as easily be hunger. You think you're being seen, but what's really happening is something colder. You're being scanned, measured, evaluated. You become less a man and more a blank canvas, waiting for her to paint her masterpiece upon you. Yet that masterpiece is not you. It never was. Carl Jung warned about this. Not with the polished tone of a motivational speaker, but with the cutting precision of someone who spent his life staring into the abyss of the human soul. He mapped out what he called the unconscious, that hidden machinery beneath awareness, and in doing so, he uncovered something unsettling about women. He realized that women do not only love men, they love the idea of men, the fantasy of men, the projection of men. And the haunting part is that many women don't even realize they are doing it. You may believe she chose you, but in truth, she is often choosing an image of you she built inside her mind, a psychological puppet crafted to play a role in her private theater. And when you no longer fit the script, she replaces the actor, not the story. Jung called this projection the animus, the inner masculine image within every woman. When this animus is unrefined, underdeveloped, or uncontrolled, it does not serve her. It rules her. It becomes a tyrant, pulling her toward dangerous men while dismissing the good, pushing her into arguments that burn more than they resolve, pushing her to dominate without wisdom and moralize without responsibility. Jung described this not as a minor flaw, but as a spiritual possession, a state in which the woman no longer acts from her own conscious self, but from the grip of an inner masculine shadow. And men, you fall into this trap because no one has taught you how to recognize it. You mistake being desired for being understood. You confuse being chosen with being truly seen. You believe her when she says you are different, when in reality, you are only the latest mask she has chosen to continue a story rehearsed since childhood. And when that fantasy collapses, when the mask falls away, you feel betrayed, humiliated, and lost, asking yourself what you did wrong. But you did nothing wrong. You simply stopped playing a convincing role in someone else's play. Jung warned that the only way out of this psychological theater is through what he called individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole within yourself. And here is the hard truth. Most men never begin that journey. From the time you are young, you are trained to chase recognition, to seek validation, to let women define your worth. As long as you continue to live this way, you will keep playing the same role over and over, only to be replaced the moment the audience grows bored. Individuation is not glamorous. It is brutal. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself you have buried, the weakness you denied, the insecurities you feared, the fractures you tried to ignore. It demands that you stop blaming women for not seeing you and instead start seeing yourself. Because here is what Jung understood that most men will never grasp. You do not become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing yourself. Your value is not earned through her affection. It is earned by standing alone, fully awake, fully responsible, fully alive. A man who has faced his own unconscious cannot be seduced by projection. He is no longer a puppet in someone else's fantasy. He is the author of his own reality. Jung observed that the greatest tragedy of the modern man is not rejection, but the willingness to twist himself into whatever shape he believes will make him acceptable. You call it compromise. You call it partnership. You even call it love. But Jung called it something else: betrayal of the self. He warned that men who ignore their own psychological development become slaves to feminine projection, bending like wet clay into forms demanded by women who themselves do not even know the shape of their own desires. You stop being a man and start becoming a mask, smiling, nodding, agreeing, performing, until you forget who you were before the mask was ever placed on your face. And women feel this. They sense it more than you can imagine. What you think will make her love you, your compliance, your predictability, your eagerness, becomes the very reason she loses attraction. Why? Because the feminine instinct, as Jung explained, is not drawn to comfort. It is drawn to mystery, to risk, to the man she cannot fully define or control. The moment you make yourself entirely transparent, with no boundaries, no spine, no center, you do not become more lovable. You become invisible, disposable, replaceable. This is the paradox that enslaves most men. You fear solitude more than you fear inauthenticity. You would rather lose yourself than lose her. You would rather live as a role than face the silence of standing without applause. But Jung taught that until a man embraces that loneliness, he will never be free. He wrote that individuation is not for the faint of heart, because it requires you to die before you die, for the false versions of yourself to burn away so that something real can emerge. Yet here is the truth that almost no one wants to say aloud. Individuation is lonely. It is a solitude that can feel terrifying. Because once you walk that path, you begin to see what cannot be unseen. You notice the games people play, the masks they wear, the lies they tell themselves just to feel safe. And when you try to speak about what you see, they mock you. They call you cold, arrogant, too serious. They insist that you are the problem. But you are not the problem. You are the mirror. And people hate mirrors when those mirrors show them the truths they have been avoiding. Jung understood this with clarity. He spent decades working with patients who trembled when confronted with their own shadows, those rejected corners of the psyche they refused to acknowledge. And women, Jung warned, are often raised within cultures that reward them for avoiding this confrontation. They are told they are pure, intuitive, emotional, and complete, just as they are. But Jung never accepted that notion. He wrote that the greatest danger for women is the unconscious animus, the inner masculine voice that speaks with false certainty, false authority, and false moral superiority. He warned that if a woman does not face and integrate this force, she becomes its prisoner. She projects it onto the men in her life, blaming them for battles she refuses to fight within herself. And you believe you are her savior. You think you will be the exception. You convince yourself that if you love her enough, prove yourself enough, perform well enough, she will finally choose you for who you are. But that is not how projection works. Jung explained that projection is a thief. It steals reality and replaces it with illusion. Until both men and women awaken from that illusion, they will replay the same tragedy over and over, each blaming the other, never realizing they are only dancing with shadows. And here is the cruelest irony. The woman who once looked at you as her hero will one day see you as her enemy, not because you changed, but because you failed to live up to the fantasy she placed upon you. The tragic part is that she does not even realize she is doing it. Jung described this psychological betrayal as inevitable when neither person takes responsibility for their inner world. You did not deceive her. You did not betray her. You simply disappointed the invisible character she created in the theater of her unconscious. You were never that character to begin with, and that is why she resents you. It is not your flaws that she condemns, but the fact that you could not embody a myth she never even told you that you were hired to play. Jung once said that human beings will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Nowhere is this more evident than in romantic relationships. Men and women enter them not as whole individuals, but as walking projections, carrying their unlived fears, unmet needs, and unhealed childhood wounds into the arms of someone they barely understand. You call it love. Jung called it obsession. And like a man under a spell, you walk willingly into the trap, convincing yourself that this time will be different. But it is never different, because you have not yet asked the most terrifying question a man can ask himself. What if I am the one responsible for this pattern? You want to blame women. You want to call them manipulative, deceptive, shallow. But Jung would look you straight in the eye and ask, why did you allow yourself to be chosen by that woman in the first place? A man who refuses to face the feminine within himself will forever be enslaved by the feminine outside himself. You are not a victim. You are a volunteer. You chose to play the fool. You chose to act in her myth. Because facing the emptiness of your own soul, the lack of wholeness within yourself, feels far more terrifying than playing a role in someone else's dream. And this is where most of you will stop listening, because this is where comfort ends and responsibility begins. Jung never offered cheap solutions. He did not give you 3 easy steps to become an alpha male. He gave you a lifelong assignment to face yourself, to sit alone in the silence of your own mind until the illusions begin to crack, until the voice inside your head whispering that you are nothing without her finally begins to fade. Make no mistake, that voice will fight for survival. It will tell you that you need her, that you are incomplete without her, that no man can live without feminine validation. But the work of Jung whispers something far more dangerous. It whispers that the man who can stand without her, without recognition, without applause, without being needed, is the man who is finally free. Free from projection, free from performance, free from the tyranny of living as someone else's idea of a man. And when you reach that place, you do not become cold or detached. You become real. You become grounded, rooted, fully alive in your own skin. And paradoxically, that is the moment when women feel most drawn to you, not because you need them, but because you do not. And you smile, not from indifference, but because you finally understand. You understand that she too is on her own journey, that she must confront her animus, that she must awaken from her own illusions. And you cannot do that work for her. You cannot save her from herself. The only thing you can do is what Jung himself did. Walk your path without fear, becoming a living mirror that reflects truth to anyone brave enough to look. Most will turn away, but a few, a rare few, will thank you for it. And that, my friend, is the difference between being loved for a role you play and being respected for the man you have become. When that moment arrives, when you finally realize you no longer need to perform, you begin to notice something strange. People grow uneasy in your presence. They feel it, even if they cannot name it. The weight of your presence unsettles them because you no longer fit the predictable boxes that once made them feel safe. Jung warned that the individuated man is not welcomed by society. He is feared, misunderstood, and labeled as distant or arrogant. But the truth is far more unsettling. You have simply become untouchable, incorruptible, immune to manipulation, because you now see the game for what it is. And this is where it becomes fascinating. The same people who once begged for your attention, your approval, your validation, will begin to resent you for not needing them. Women, especially those still caught in the spell of the perfect man fantasy, will accuse you of being unfeeling. They will say you are too rational, too analytical, too distant. But what they truly mean is that they can no longer control you. You have stepped off the stage. You have stopped reciting their script. And without that script, they no longer know what to do with you. Because you are no longer a character. You have finally become a man. Jung once joked that the gods had become diseases, what ancient cultures called divine possession. Modern psychology now describes as neurosis. And make no mistake, the men who chase validation are the most spiritually sick of all. You may think it is romantic to say things like, "I would do anything for her," or "She is my everything." But Jung would shake his head and tell you that what you are calling love is nothing more than a refusal to carry your own soul. It is easier to project it onto a woman and make her the bearer of your hope, your meaning, your purpose, because if she carries it, you do not have to. Yet here is the harsh reality. When she realizes she was never designed to carry your soul, she will drop it. She has to drop it, because no woman, no matter how loving, can bear the crushing weight of a man who refuses to carry himself. And when she does, you will feel betrayed. But betrayal is not what happened. What happened is revelation. You should thank her, because in that moment, when the illusion collapses, you are finally confronted with the truth that the work of becoming a man was never hers. It has always been yours. In that brutal clarity, you face a choice. You can blame her. You can grow bitter. You can join the angry chorus of men who ridicule women, resent them, and swear to abandon them. Cowards who refuse to confront the emptiness of their own souls. Or you can do what Jung would demand of you. You can turn inward. You can begin the lonely, terrifying, liberating work of individuation, of becoming whole without needing anyone else to complete you. Because the truth is this: the woman you are searching for out there is nothing more than the reflection of the part of yourself you have abandoned. Until you face that part, every relationship will remain a performance. Every connection will be a transaction. Every love will be a lie. But when you do face it, when you integrate the feminine within yourself, you become a man who no longer chases women. You do not pursue them. You do not manipulate them. You do not perform for them. You stand still, unwavering, rooted in your own being. And from that place, something extraordinary happens. You stop attracting women who want a character and begin attracting women who want the truth. You will know it when it arrives, because she will not demand a performance. She will not attempt to rewrite your script. She will not love the fantasy of you. She will stand before you as she is, authentic and unmasked, not as a goddess seeking worship, but as a human being willing to walk her own path beside you. No masks, no projections, no games. And when you meet her, the real her, not the fantasy, you will know the difference instantly. She will not overflow with grand declarations. She will not treat you as the missing piece in her puzzle. She will not seduce you with the language of completion, because she is not searching for completion. She is not searching for salvation. She has already done her work. She has confronted her own shadow. She has faced her animus. She has burned away her illusions. And that is why she does not need you to perform. She does not need you to carry her soul. She will stand there, holding herself, looking directly into your eyes, not as a man she wishes to mold, but as a man she is finally ready to meet. And in that meeting there is no desperation, there is no clinging, there is no performance, there is only truth. And that truth, Jung taught, is the rarest and most dangerous form of love. It is the love that demands nothing yet gives everything, because it does not arise out of need, it arises out of freedom. The freedom to choose, the freedom to walk away, the freedom to stand together without illusion, without masks, without fear. But let me warn you, most of you will never experience this, because most of you will give up long before you reach it. You will settle for performance. You will settle for fantasy. You will settle for the temporary thrill of being seen as someone you are not, because the thought of confronting who you truly are feels unbearable. But if you have the courage, the ruthless, soul-tearing courage to keep walking, to keep standing alone, to keep stripping away every false layer you built in search of approval, you will eventually find yourself standing at the edge of something both terrifying and beautiful. You will find yourself, and when that happens, women will no longer be the source of your identity. They will no longer be the mirror you use to feel like a man. They will become something entirely different. Companions, not prizes. Mirrors, not mothers. Allies, not saviors. And you will love them not because you need them, but because you choose to. From a place of strength, from a place of wholeness, from a place that knows, without apology, exactly who you are. Carl Jung did not leave you a map to follow. He left you a warning that any man who refuses to face himself will live as a prisoner of projections, especially the projections of women. But he also left you a challenge to walk the road of individuation, to stop blaming women for the roles you chose to play, to stop seeking wholeness in the gaze of another, to stop waiting to be chosen. Because the man who chooses himself, fully, unapologetically, relentlessly, is the man who cannot be controlled by fantasy. He cannot be seduced by performance. He cannot be reduced to a character in someone else's script. He becomes the author of his own life. And if you have stayed with me this far, if these words have struck a chord deep inside you, do not just move on as if nothing happened. Do not let this message become another piece of content you consume and forget. Take a moment right now to like this video. Share it with another man who needs to hear this truth. Subscribe so you can stay with us on this journey. Your support is not only for us, it is for the next man still trapped in illusion, still waiting to be set free. Help us spread this message. Help us awaken the world, one man at a time.